coming to you on behalf of the Vineyard of Israel, in the name of the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, with a message on this true Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, right? I want to thank the Lord for giving us that revelation and allowing us the opportunity to serve Him in spirit and in truth, right? So we just thank Him for the opportunity. Thank Him for saving us from great deception, right? Good? Okay. Alright, we got the title of today's message is Daniel the 8th chapter, right? I know we was expecting Mark of the Beast, we're going to get to it, but there was a little piece of history I wanted to put into it, and I didn't get to put it in there, and I didn't want to rush it. So we're going to get to the Mark of the Beast, right? But first, we're going to tackle Daniel the 8th chapter, right? Because as we go into history, I'm learning that some things that we've been looking for, from my eyes, it looked like it's already happened. So Daniel the 8th chapter is dealing with the period of time that's really not in the Bible, right? It's the period of time from the Persian Empire to the Greek Empire, to the end of the Greek Empire. And that's what it's telling us about. And we can go in history, we can prove it out. And Lord willing, that's what we're going to do today, right? That's what we're going to do today. All right? So, all I ask is that we pay attention to what the scripture is telling us. All right? Don't worry about the way you've been taught this. You know, you can take this and you can line it up with what you've been taught, and you can bear it out for yourself to see which one that you feel is true. But for me, I'm fully convinced that this event that we're looking for to happen, speaking of the 2300 days, it seems like it's already been fulfilled. And I'll show you why I stand on that. Right? So, let's just see what the scriptures say. Let's come with an open mind. Matter of fact, let's just start out at verse 14. So I just want to ask a question. Verse 14. Daniel 8, verse 14. Daniel 8, verse 14. Like I said, the title is Daniel the 8th chapter. Daniel the 8th chapter. Right? And for those who kind of new with us, you probably not going to understand it, but bear with us. Right? But if you've been in the truth any length of time, you'll be able to get it. Right? So when we have questions and things in the Bible, you go through history, you see if history can prove it out. Right? Because all men are trying their best to see what the prophets say. And we can't rely on interpretation. It's too deep in the game. You know, we got to let the Bible and we got to let history bear each other out. Because if it's truth, it's going to be there. If it's not, then we still looking. All right? We ain't lost nothing. But if it's true, we don't want to be looking for something to materialize that will never materialize. Right? And it's not my job to come and preach and teach doctrine. Right? My job is to teach the truth. And I do it to the best of my ability. Right? So I'm not going to follow a teaching that I don't think is right. I'm not just going to just spill it out to you guys just because simply I've been taught it. I'm going to give you what the Lord gives me. Right? And like I say, we can weigh it out. It's no big deal. Right? So let's start out at verse 14. Because I want to ask you a question. I want you to do some things. Right? Harken to the scripture.
And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days.
So this is the angel, right? He relaying the message to Daniel. He was asking, how long is all of these stuff going to happen? All of these, and we're going to see what he's talking about once we go back up in the chapter. But I just want to get to the end of the verse, and I want to ask you a question. So he said, how long is all this stuff going to happen? He said unto me, 2,300 days. Go ahead.
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Then after 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Right? See, I made a bold statement. We started out in Matthew the 24th chapter a couple weeks ago. And I said, based off what I've been studying and come up with, that the Matthew the 24th chapter, the first half was talking about the temple in Jerusalem and the sanctuary being destroyed. After he started talking to them about that, then he started to talk to them about the end of the world. But we have just jumped ship straight to the end. And that's just not how God is. He's not skipping over all these hundreds of years of history and shooting straight at the end. It's not happening. So after 2,300 days, what you say?
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
What sanctuary is he talking about? Huh? Do we know? Because they teach us, or we've been taught that it's the sanctuary that the Ashkenazi Jews is going to build. Right? But I say unto you, this ain't talking about that one. This is talking about the one that Nehemiah and Ezra built. He said it's going to be cleansed. Why would it have to be cleansed? See, questions. When you ask yourself questions, why do it have to be cleansed? Because it's been tried down, it's been profaned. Right? It's been desecrated. Huh? So I ask you a question again. If this is talking future, in the synagogue of Satan, the Ashkenazi Jews, the ones that call themselves Jews and are not, and they gonna build a temple, how is it not polluted already? How is it not polluted when the Lord wouldn't let King David, a man after his own heart, build a temple? How is it called a sanctuary of strength? When those people are not even out of the seed of Israel. It's called a sanctuary of strength when the priests, the Levites, are performing the sanctuary duties. Because you know, if the Ashkenazi Jews gonna build a temple, they gotta reformulate the oil of apothecary. And the Lord said, can't no man do that. Huh? So it's a problem, is what I'm saying. It's a problem. Synagogue of Satan can't make that oil. Synagogue of Satan can't build God a temple and it be considered holy. It can be considered the sanctuary of strength. And once they build the first build, it's already desecrated. How they gonna profane something that's already profane? See, you looking for a profane temple to be built, and the Pope gonna sit in, that's gonna be your sign to flee. But ain't no prophets told you to flee. And not now one prophet told you to flee. If you do, just show me. When we get done, come up here and show me where one prophet said, show me where it's a worldwide flee. Because the man was so specific in Matthew 24, he said, him that be in Judea flee to the mountain. He didn't mention Samaria. He didn't mention Galilee or Nazareth, right? Why? Because that's where the temple was. All of these prophecies is based off the temple and the temple worship in Israel. And we've applied prophecies that's strictly for Israel, the temple, and the land to the whole world. And it's messed up. And once you mess up one thing, it's a domino effect. And that's what I'm coming in contact with. A domino effect. Right? So I'm asking you. Go ahead and finish. Did you finish that?
Yes, sir.
So he said, read that last half again.
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
So has it been cleansed? That's my question to you guys. Has the temple been cleansed? Not a clue? That's a problem. Maybe that's my fault. But after today, it's not going to be my fault. Right? So, I'm ready to tell you, the temple has been cleansed. You know what? That's why I love God, because he give us markers. And he give us things that happen in history that we can go back and see. When this sanctuary was cleansed, you know what happened? They rededicated. They held a feast. You know what it's called? Feast of Dedication. The Feast of Lights. Hanukkah, they call it now. Right? So this is the reason why I stand on this has already been fulfilled. And on top of that, pick me up at John, the 10th chapter, verse 22. You want to see exactly what temple we're talking about. John 10, verse 22. This is future from Daniel 8 chapter. A couple of hundred years later. This is what we're reading about. Hearken to the scripture.
And it was at Jerusalem.
So what we're dealing with? Jerusalem, right? The holy place. What happened in Jerusalem?
The Feast of Dedication.
What? What about it?
And it was winter.
You know when it was? 25th day of Chisleu, which we call December. Right? We're gonna put a date on when it happened. But this is 200 years later, approximately 200 years later. They celebrating the Feast of Dedication. And it was in the winter. Who was there?
And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch.
That's the sanctuary. That's the temple. That's the one they rededicated so that it won't be profaned, so that the Mashiach could have a place to go. That's how it is. Let's read this little bit of history. Get this mark. This is the Feast of, because we're going to get a date. Feast of Lights. One name they gave the feast. It's called the Feast of Lights, the Feast of Dedication. Some now call it Hanukkah. You see the Bible in John the 10th chapter, you call it Feast of Dedication. This is out of the, what is that, Zondervan?
Yeah, the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary.
Okay. Then we're going to just read a couple of inserts from off the internet. Go ahead.
The Feast of Lights was observed for 8 days, beginning on the 25th day of Kislev.
That's the 9th Hebrew month. It coincides with December in our time. Go ahead.
Our December.
Yep.
It was instituted by Julius Maccabeus.
See, that's the piece of history that's missing from the Bible. The Maccabean revolt. It happened during the period of the Greek kingdom, which that's what Daniel the 8th chapter is telling us about. So we're going to line this thing up. We're not going to jump ship to the future without dealing with what's past. Right? So that's what we're going to do. So he's telling us, what?
Instituted by Julius Maccabeus in 164.
See, the Maccabees, they was out of the tribe of Levi. That's why they could clean the temple. You see what I'm saying? That's how they can clean it. That's how they can rededicate it. Because not only did they have to clean it and rededicate, they had to rebuild the altar. Can't anybody just come and rebuild the altar. They had to build a new candlestick, right? They had to build all of the showbread and everything that was destroyed and desecrated and sold to other nations. They had to rededicate these things so that Christ could have a place to come, and so that the temple can be erected upright once you get there. And so he could be the one that ultimately stop the sacrifices, right? So the 2,300 days, what we're going to read, I ain't going to jump the gun, but go ahead.
That's all of it.
Okay, now I got another one, another couple ones. This is under the Feast of Dedication. I just got this out of Wikipedia because there's nothing hard about this. But matter of fact, start where it says dedication. Go ahead.
Dedication is the act of consecrating an altar, temple, church, or other sacred building. It also refers to the inscription of books or other artifacts when these are specifically addressed or presented to a particular person.
Yeah, they had to rededicate the things to God, so they had to consecrate it. And if we go back when he set up the tabernacle of the tent, he sprinkled everything. He sprinkled the table, the showbread, he sprinkled everything with the blood. Right? So go ahead and read.
This practice, which once was used to gain the patronage and support of the person so addressed, is now only a mark of affection or regard.
Mm-hmm.
In law, the word is used of the setting apart by a private owner of a road to public use.
Right, so in law they use it as to mean set apart. Or what? Holy, consecrate, right? Separate. Right, and that's what they had to do to the temple. Right, just read where it starts talking about the Feast of Dedication.
Feast of Dedication. The Feast of Dedication, today Hanukkah, once also called Feast of the
I think
Maccabees.
Hanukkah means dedicate. Right? Once also called what?
Feast of the Maccabees.
Because they the one who cleansed the temple. Go ahead.
Was a Jewish festival observed for 8 days from the 25th of Kislev.
That's coincide with our December. They celebrated it for 8 days. Right? Go ahead.
Usually in December.
Yes.
But
Remember,
occasionally,
it was in the winter when Christ was at it, right? Go ahead.
but occasionally late November,
Mm-hmm.
due to the lunar solar calendar.
Yeah.
It was instituted in the year 165 BC by Judas Maccabeus.
165 BC.
BC.
Before Christ. The year 165. That's going to be important. Because that's how we're going to start our count. Right? So remember, it happened in 165 BC, but in December. So sometimes the history is going to say 164. Because when you're in BC, the years count down. They descend until from like 165 to 0. Right? So we got to, so some of the history is going to say 164. But they started when he first started to consecrate it. Remember, you got to give place for time because there's no way they could do everything in one day. They had to rebuild off. They had to clean it. You know, they had to make the instruments of the temple. So they couldn't do that all in one day. But they already was at the month of December in the year 165. That's why you're going to see some days that say 164. Right? So, but it's all the same. You got the next. Let's go. What is that? Now let's skip to the next one. Just read a little bit off this. Because remember they call it Hanukkah now too. Go ahead.
Hanukkah. A transliteration also romanized as Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a Jewish festival commemorating the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem at the time of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire.
The Seleucid Empire, right? That was that's the one that Antiochus the Fourth came out of. They had ruled over Syria, right? In Daniel 11 chapter, they call him King of the North, right? So we're gonna get acquainted with that too. Go ahead.
It is also known as the Festival of Lights.
Festival of Lights, right? Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah, one and the same. Go ahead.
Hanukkah is observed for 8 nights and days.
Yes.
Starting on the 25th day of Kislev,
Mm-hmm.
according to the Hebrew calendar.
Right.
Which may occur at any time from the late November to late December in the Gregorian calendar.
That's right.
The festival is observed by lighting the candles of the candleboard with 9 branches called the menorah.
Right. So they light the menorah, right? Go ahead.
One branch is typically placed above or below the others, and its candle is used to light the other eight candles.
That's good. That's good on that. So now let's go back to the scripture. Let's go to Daniel 8 chapter. We're gonna start at verse 1. And Lord willing, we're gonna run it down. So we got one date, right? 165 BC. And how we gonna get to the 2300 days? We're gonna count backwards from the time the temple was cleansed. Alright? 2300 days, I think the math is roughly 6 years, 3 months, and 20 days. So from 165, 2300 days earlier will bring us approximately 171 BCE. So we need some events if this is true, we need some events that's going to take place from 171 BC all the way down 2300 days later, stopping at 165. And these can't be any old events. They have to start with what we're going to read from Daniel 8 chapter verses 10 on down to 14. So the events have to match up. History has to bear it out in order for it to be true. We'll see. Lord willing. So, start me off at verse 1. And you know, the angel, he gave Daniel an interpretation of the dream right in this chapter. He did. We're going to see. Verse 1, hearken to the scripture.
In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar.
Who is that? Belshazzar? Who is that? Whose son is he? Nebuchadnezzar's son, right? So you put the time frame on it. Nebuchadnezzar's son, that means Daniel is in the kingdom of what? Babylon, right? Go ahead.
A vision appeared unto me.
And he in the 3rd year of his reign. So what he's going to tell us about is going to be future from Daniel's time, from the 3rd year of the reign of Belteshazzar, right? Go ahead.
After that which appeared unto me at the first.
Yes.
And I saw in a vision.
What you see?
And it came to pass.
Right. He talking about the vision that he had about the 4 dynasties in the previous chapter, in the 7th chapter. So this vision came to me after that one, right? Go ahead.
When I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision.
Where's Elam at? In the land of Babylon, right? Elam, around that area, Babylon. Go ahead.
And I was by the river Ulai.
Yeah, what you see?
Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns.
Yes.
And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
Yes.
I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Right. So do we have any idea what he's explaining to us? Because this man done went off on a tangent talking about a ram, right, with 2 horns. And he said one horn was higher than the other one. What are you talking about? Do we have any idea? What he's explaining to us is, remember, he's in the Babylonian kingdom. He's explaining to us, it's going to be another kingdom that come and take over. This kingdom that followed the Babylonian Empire was the Medes and the Persians. Right? That's why you have 2 horns on this ram, right? Go ahead.
But he did according to his will and became great.
So now, let's let the angel interpret it. Drop down to verse 20. We need a starting point so we can see what's happening. Verse 20. So you can explain what we just read in verse 3. Go ahead.
The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns of the kings of Media and Persia.
See that? Starting to break down the vision. So it's future from the time he having a dream. Right? While he having a dream, remember, Babylon is still ruling. Right? No Mede and no Persian has taken over yet. But what he's showing them is about to come to pass shortly. So he's going in succession. Right? So he said the 2 horns of what you say?
Media and Persia.
So he's breaking it down for us, right? The kings of the Medes and Persia. Go ahead.
21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes.
That's good. I won't want to jump. So we haven't read about the rough goat yet. Let's go back to verse 4. But as you can see, since we already hit that, it's going from kingdom to kingdom, right? To kingdom. Right? So he told you the 2 horns, the ram with the 2 horns is the kings of Media and the Persians. Go ahead, verse 4.
I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him.
Right, it's a world ruling empire. Right? No beast can stand before him. Go ahead.
Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But
Go ahead.
But he did according to his will and became great.
That's right. He did according to his will. What verse you at?
That was the end of 4.
Okay. Go ahead.
And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Okay, so now he said the he-goat. He said, I was watching this ram, and then a he-goat came from the face, covered the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Right? That means his feet touched not the ground. It represents swiftness. Right? So let's go and pick me back up where you left out. What verse was that? 21?
Yes.
So because he's going to break it down. Go ahead and get verse 21.
And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
Okay, so now we got the kings of Persia and Medes and Persia. Now we got the king of Greece coming out on the scene. And he's being represented by what? A rough goat. Right? Go ahead.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
And the great horn that's between his eyes, that's the first king. First king of who? First king of Greece. Right? We need to find out who that was. Go ahead.
22.
What 20? You said 22? No, not 22. Go back.
6.
Yes. Go ahead.
And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river.
And what happened?
And ran
remember, the ram is the Medes and Persians. The goat is the king of Greece. Right? Matter of fact, let's just put a person with this name. I gotta read out of this. I know what we've been taught. This is the Apocrypha. But it's history in here. We're gonna go and get the history. Right? I'm not saying it's canon or it's law, but it gives us a deeper look into the Hebraic culture. Right? So that's what we're gonna use it for, the history. Right? So don't be alarmed. It's not a book that's gonna condemn you for reading it, right? So we wanna see if it line up. If it don't line up, we ain't gonna use it. Right? So pick me up at, this is First Maccabees, the 1st chapter. Pick me up at verses 1. We got the king of Greece, and we got that notable horn between the king of, between the ram and you know that to be the king of Greece. I mean between the goat. Notable horn between the goat's eyes is the first king. What does it say? Maccabees 1:1.
After Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and the Medes. He succeeded him as king.
Right.
He had previously become king of Greece. He fought many battles, conquered strongholds, and put to death the kings of the earth.
Who you said it was?
Alexander.
Alexander the Great. Right. That's who that notable horn is on the he-goat. The he-goat is the kingdom of Greece. I wish I would have wrote this down just to make it easy to keep track of. The he-goat is the king of Greece. The notable horn we're reading about is Alexander the Great. So that's the first king of Greece. Right? Let's go back to the scripture. Hold that spot though. We'll be back. Let's pick it back up at verse 7. So remember, he approaching the ram with the 2 horns. The goat is approaching the ram with the 2 horns. And what happened? Verse 7.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with shoulder against him.
Right here, he moved with anger against him. Go ahead and read.
And smote the ram.
Yes.
And brake his 2 horns.
Yes.
And there was no power in the ram to stand before him.
That's right. I mean, he took him down, or he took down his kingdom. Right. Go ahead.
But he cast him down to the ground.
Yes.
And stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
That's right. Nobody could help him. Go ahead.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
So that means he died. When he was strong, when he was in the pinnacle or the apex of his power, right? He was broken. That means he died. And what happened?
And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
From who? From where? What do you mean from it? What are we talking about?
The he-goat.
The he-goat, right? So from the kingdom of Greece, after the death of Alexander the Great, came up 4 notable ones, right? And they spread toward the 4 winds of heaven. Right? So they took over his kingdom. But they didn't have the power he had. So let's see if this happened. Go back in the Maccabees. So it's 4 of them, right? Pick it up where you left off, talking about Alexander the Great. Start back at verse 1.
After Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and the Medes.
They line up. Right, Medes and Persians. The he-goat beat up the ram. Right, what happened after he defeated him?
He succeeded him as king.
He became king. That's the notable horn. Go ahead.
He had previously become king of Greece.
Yes.
He fought many battles.
So that's what we're talking about, Greece, the Greece kingdom, right? He fought many battles. Nobody had power to stand before him. That's what Daniel 8 is telling us. Go ahead.
Conquer strongholds.
Nobody could stop him. Go ahead.
And put to death the kings of the earth.
Look at it. What king can rise against him and win? None. He put to death the kings of the earth. What else?
He advanced.
Yes.
To the ends of the earth.
Right.
And plundered many nations. When the earth became quiet before him, he was exalted.
Yeah, so his horn was lifted up, What happened?
And his heart was lifted up.
Yes.
He gathered a very strong army
Mhm.
and ruled over countries.
That's what the 8th verse say. It say he became strong. Right? Go ahead.
Nations and princes.
Yes.
And they became tributary to
That's
him.
right. They got to pay tax. Go ahead.
After this he fell sick and perceived that he was dying. So he summoned his honored officers.
That's after he became strong. Then he was broken, just like the scripture says. Right? And now, before he died, he gathered some of his honorable officers. Right? Go ahead.
Who had been brought up with him from youth.
And how many did the scripture say it was? 4. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Seleucus, Lysimachus, Cassandra, and Ptolemy. Right? Go ahead.
And divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive.
And he divided his kingdom amongst while he still was alive. What happened?
And after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died. Then his officers began to rule, each in his own place.
Right.
They all put on crowns after his death.
So they all put on crowns after his death. So they became the 4 notable ones. Right? Toward the 4 winds of heaven. Go ahead.
And so did their descendants after them for many years.
And so did their descendants after them for many years. Right? So because remember, the Greek Empire, it reigned for a while. It wasn't just destroyed in 20, 30 years. It reigned for a while, over 100 and some years. So they were taken down by the Romans. But in the 8th, what verse you on that?
10.
Okay, read 10 and we'll stay. Go ahead.
From them came forth a sinful root.
From those 4. From one of those 4 came forth a what?
Sinful root.
A sinful root. Go ahead.
Antiochus Epiphanes.
So you got to put a name on it. I want you to go and do your own research on him. Antiochus Epiphanes. His name is Antiochus the 4th. But his surname Epiphanes, you know what that means? This reflects his thought. It means God manifested. That's how he thought of himself. That's key for you to know, because in the 11th chapter, he's going to talk about him more in detail. He's going to tell you that his heart was lifted up against him. Surname himself, or surname Epiphanes. God in the flesh, God manifest. That's how he thought he was. Go ahead.
Son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome.
That's good. That's at the end of 10?
Yes.
That's good. We'll come back to the Maccabees. We'll be going back and forth. But we ain't going to just stop at the Maccabees. I know we're uncomfortable with that book. So we're going to go and get another witness in history. But go back into the 8th chapter. Pick me up at verse 8. Hearken to the scripture.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great.
The he-goat, which is who? I just want to keep reiterating this so I can know we're following along. Who is the he-goat? The king of Greece. Right? He waxed great. Right? The notable horn that was upon the he-goat is Alexander the Great. He reigned 12 years. He died. That's what it says. Before he died, he divided his kingdom in 4. His 4 generals took over. After his death, they put on crowns. Right? So go ahead.
And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Yes.
And out of one of them came forth the little horn.
Out of one of who?
The 4 generals.
Out of one of the 4 generals of Alexander the Great, right? So don't get thrown off just because you see little horn. Every little horn in the Bible is not the same. Little horn just means little power. Right? That's all it means. And we got a name for him from the Maccabees. He told us this little horn that came out of one of the 4 was who? Antiochus Epiphanes, or Antiochus the 4th. Right? But he came from who? The Greek kingdom. The kingdom of Greece. Right? Go ahead.
Which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
See, this is why the Bible is mentioning him. The pleasant land is what? Jerusalem. This is one of the first ones that brought on an all-out assault against the Jews. against Jerusalem. And we're going to see the type of things that he set forth for them. And you're going to, as we go down into this verse, you're going to see why he asked that question. How long is this stuff going to go on? So you let me know what kingdom when we transfer kingdoms. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we're still dealing in the Greek Empire. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
We ain't shot past us yet.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? We haven't even made it to the fourth beast. We're still in the Greek Empire. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
That's right.
And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground.
What do hosts mean? Just a multitude of people, right? And it's not talking about everybody. Once he ended with the pleasant land, he started to tell you some things that's going to take place, or some things that he's going to do against the pleasant land. Right? He said, it waxed great even to the host of heaven. Right? And it cast some of the host to the ground. And did what?
And stamped upon them.
And so he said, and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Who is the stars? Who are the stars? Israel. Israel not the stars?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to prove that. I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 12 chapter. Revelation 12 chapter, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Mark to the scripture.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
All right, so we know this to be who? Israel. 12 stars, the 12 tribes, right? Well, let's go see it again. Genesis 37. He didn't give us no name. Genesis 37. This is Joseph. He had a dream. His brothers hated him for his dream. We'll start at verse 8. You know, Jacob is Joseph's father. Jacob, Israel, is one and the same. All right, verse 8, harken to the scripture.
And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us?
Right, so this the brethren, the 11 stars, they asked him, shall you indeed reign over us? You crazy? What? Go ahead.
Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us?
Mm-hmm.
And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
Yeah.
And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren.
What is that?
And said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me.
He said the sun and the moon and the 11 stars. Why is it 11 stars? Because it's the 11 brother and he the 12th. Right? So the 11 tribes, he the 12th, which makes it 12 tribes. So the stars is representation of Israel in this instance. Right? Did you finish that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, y'all, they bowed down to me. Right? Well, go ahead. Let's go back to Daniel. That's all I wanted to point that out. So the stars that he cast to the ground is Israel. And he stamped upon them, meaning what? Destroy. Mm-hmm. He killed them. See, this is a great period in their history because a lot of people lost their life. They was faced. They had a choice to make during this time. Serve God and die, possibly, or commit to the policies of the king, which is Antiochus at this point. And we're going to see. We're going to read a lot of history because we don't know it, right? It's good for us to know because it's going to give us the insight on what's going on in Jerusalem during this period. Mm-hmm. We're going to read it. Where we leave off at verse 11? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yet he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
So this is what that's why even his name, Epiphanes, he magnified himself unto the prince of the host. Who is the prince of the host? The host is what? The people. Let's see who the prince of the host is. Go to the 10th chapter of Daniel, 2 verses. Daniel 10 verse 21. Daniel 10 and 21. Hark to the scripture.
But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth.
This is what Gabriel is saying to Daniel. He let him know. I'm going to show you what's noted in the scripture of truth. Go ahead.
And there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael your prince.
He said, Michael, your prince, prince of the host. Go to the 12th chapter, picking up in verse 1. As far as the proof it is. Verse 1. Go ahead.
And at that time shall Michael stand up,
Who is Michael?
the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people.
That's right. He made war fight for his people. Right? Prince of the host. He the prince of the people. Whose people? Daniel's people, or Israel. Right? And if you stand up against Michael, the prince of the host, you standing up against the one who commissioned Michael to go forth and fight for his people, which is called the Prince of Princes and King of Kings, which is the God of Israel. So you standing up against Michael, you standing up against the one who put Michael in charge. That's right. This ain't hard to see. Go ahead.
You want some more than?
Yeah, let's finish the verse.
And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book.
Okay, that's good. Go back to where we left off from the 8th chapter. So we just seeing who he's magnifying himself against, who he's coming against, what his purpose is, right? His purpose, he's going to cast some stars down to the ground. He's going to cast Israel down to the ground. And look what else he's going to do, magnify himself against the Prince of Hosts. So if you do that, look, that automatically tell you that's war. War is going to be involved. That's what the angels do, they fight. He said Michael stand up for his people. So there's going to be some fighting. And that means he helped them. And we're going to see how that transpired. Go ahead.
And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away.
By him who? The Pope? Who is him that took away the daily sacrifices? What kingdom we in? Who we talking about that's going to do all these terrible things?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me, y'all. Y'all understand this? Antiochus and Epiphanes, right?
Yep.
By him, right, was the daily sacrifices taken away. Because remember, Numbers 28 tell you they offer sacrifice every day, the morning and the evening sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the sanctuary of strength. When the Levites can trace their lineage back to Eleazar and back to Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
That's the strength. That's the sanctuary that's going to be polluted. Anything else other than that, that's not no sanctuary of strength. It might be a sanctuary, and they might even build a sanctuary. I'm not saying they're not. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going nowhere. Because I know the synagogue of Satan cannot build a sanctuary unto my God.
Mm-hmm.
And he considered it the sanctuary of strength. It doesn't even make sense. When we study the scriptures, that should insult our intelligence.
Come on.
When we understand our laws and our statutes, that don't make no sense. That's why we gotta learn. We the priests. We supposed to know this stuff. How somebody else gonna take our job and make a sanctuary to God? You know, when Ezra and Nehemiah were building this temple, they had some foreigners come say, "Let us help you do it." They said, "You ain't got no business with our God."
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden, Ashkenazi Jews,
Come on.
the synagogue of Satan,
Yes.
the ones who say they Jews and are not, Edom, mixed with Edom, so they gonna build God's temple in the future? That's a lie.
Come on.
That's a lie. And the truth gonna cast into the ground.
Come on.
That's a lie. What verse we at?
End of 11.
Yes.
And the place of his sanctuary was cast down,
Go ahead.
and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
So we still dealing with Antiochus, right? So he gonna take down, he gonna stop the daily sacrifices. He gonna cast down the sanctuary. And by him he was given a host, meaning an army against the daily sacrifices. And God is letting this go on. He told you why. He said, because by reason of transgression, by all the transgression that the Jews committed, God is angry with the people. So he's letting Antiochus come in and demolish them in the manner that he did. And I'm going to show you, we're going to see some of the transgressions once you go into the history. It's gonna tell us. Go ahead.
And they cast down the truth to the ground.
Then they cast the truth down to, look, if this in the future, the truth is already cast down to the ground. Is it not? We're trying to recover the truth. The truth is already cast down. By him, the truth is going to be cast down to the ground. Go ahead.
And they practice and prosper.
And they practice and prosper. I mean, he put his policies into place, and he prospered. He was given leeway to bring all this stuff to pass. Go ahead. 13.
Then I heard one of the saints speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice?
So you see what's happening? Two saints, they talking to each other. They like, man, all of this stuff is happening. How long is God gonna let this go on? Right? What did he say?
And the transgression of desolation.
What?
Abomination.
Abomination, desolation, transgression, and desolation is all one and the same. Because he the one who set it up. He the one who set it up. Go ahead and read.
To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot.
To give the sanctuary to be trodden underfoot, not only the sanctuary, but the people. Right? Because he's going to start destroying the people before he even make it to the sanctuary. Before he even set up the abomination of desolation, he's going to start his own slaughter on the people. And it's going to happen over a period of time. 2,300 days to be exact. 6 years, 3 months, 20 days. Go ahead.
14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days.
And what's going to happen after that?
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Well, after that 2,300 days, then what's going to be cleansed?
The sanctuary.
And God marked it with a feast. After they dedicated it, he marked it with a feast. He called it the feast of dedication. Alright? So let's see if we can point some of this stuff out in the Maccabees and line it up with the scriptures again. Pick me up at I want to back up a bit. Back me up to verse 8. See if we line up. Then give me Maccabees 1. No, we already did that one. Verse 10. Let me have verse 10. We'll read 10 through 12, and then we'll read verse 24. Go ahead.
From them came forth a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus.
Well, where you? Oh no, in the scripture. We're gonna read this. Give me verse 10. Because I was talking a lot. Now we're just gonna read straight through it. Go ahead.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yet he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
Right.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Right.
And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground.
And what happened?
And it practiced and prospered.
Practice and prosper. Let's add verse 24 in to get some beef to what we reading. Go ahead.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
See, his power, he practiced and prospered. But it wasn't because of his own power. It's because God was mad at the people for all of the transgression. So God allowed him to do this. Go ahead.
And he shall destroy wonderfully.
And he shall destroy wonderfully.
And shall prosper.
And shall prosper.
And practice.
Yes.
And shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Pick me up at 2 Maccabees, 5th chapter, verse 17. I'm going to read 17 through 20. Go ahead.
Antiochus was elated in spirit.
God, he lifted himself up. He was elated in spirit. Go ahead.
And did not perceive that the Lord was angered for a little while because of the sins of those who lived in the city.
Look, he didn't understand that it was God that was mad with the people, allowed him to do these things. That never even crossed his mind. His heart was lifted up. He was exalted in thought, in mind, in the spirit. So he never thought for 1 second that it was God that was allowing him to do this. But he said he practiced in private, but it wasn't because of his own power. Go ahead.
And that this was the reason he was disregarding the holy place.
See, he said this is the reason. God let you do it. So it's not by your own power. Go ahead.
But if it had not happened that they were involved in many sins, this man would have been flogged and turned back from his rash act as soon as he came forward.
Look, they're saying if it wasn't because the people was engulfed in so much sin, as soon as that man would have came into the city, they would beat him and send him back where he came from. Go ahead.
Just as Heliodorus had been, whom King Seleucus sent to inspect the treasury.
Right. So it would have happened the same way as it happened to Heliodorus, who was sent to inspect the temple treasury. Right? They beat him and they sent him back where he came from. He said if God wasn't mad at the people for all of the sins they committed, Antiochus and Epiphanes would have been the same way. It would have been the same way. So it wasn't because of his own power that he practiced and practiced, because God allowed him. Now jump up to verse 1. And then we're going to drop down to verse 5. Go ahead.
About this time, Antiochus made his second invasion of Egypt. And it happened that for almost 40 days there appeared over all the city golden-clad cavalry charging through the air,
right,
in companies, fully armed with lances and drawn swords.
Go ahead.
Troops of cavalry drawn up, attacks and counteracts made on this side and on that, brandishing of shields, massing of spears, hurling of missiles, the flash of golden trappings, and armor of all kinds.
Go ahead. Now go down to verse 5. Go ahead. Come on.
When a false rumor arose that Antiochus was dead, Jason took no fewer than 1,000 men.
So Jason, he was one of the high priests. He was a corrupt high priest. He bought out the high priest's office. He's not even supposed to be a high priest from the tribe of Benjamin. The priest supposed to come from Levi. So he bought out the high priest, and then he got rumor that Antiochus was dead. So this is going to start an uprising, because he actually had a relative named Menelaus who undercut him. He went to Antiochus and paid more money for the high priest's office, and he ended up buying it from under him. So at this time, we read that Jason is going to rebel. He changed his name. His name used to be Yeshua. He changed his name to please Antiochus to Jason. So he finna rebel, and what happened?
Jason took no fewer than 1,000 men and suddenly made an assault on the city. When the troops on the wall had been forced back, and at last the city was being taken, Menelaus took refuge in the citadel.
Menelaus is the one that undercut Jason for the high priest's office. They relatives. He paid 300 more shekels of silver for the high priest's office, right? And he basically stole it off the under. So Jason is gonna retaliate now. But what's happening? They storming the city. Right? He waging war on the city, Jerusalem, his own people. His own people. So it's kind of like, almost like a civil war happening. And what happened?
But Jason kept relentlessly slaughtering his compatriots.
His own companions, his own folks. You verse 6, what verse you at?
That was 6.
You finish 6? Okay, finish 6 and drop down to 11.
Not realizing that success at the cost of one's kindred is the greatest misfortune.
That's right. The people is the one that's paying the price for their civil war. Drop down to verse 11. Go ahead.
When the news of what had happened reached the king, he took it to mean that Judea was in revolt.
So once this news reached Antiochus, he thought that Jerusalem had revolted from under his power. So he finna act. What happened? So
raging inwardly, he left Egypt and took the city by storm.
So he left Egypt where he was, right? And he finna take Jerusalem by storm. He's mad. He's angry. Go ahead.
He commanded his soldiers to cut down relentlessly everyone they met and to kill those who went into their houses.
Look, this is what he's saying. He had an army. By him was the daily sacrifices taken away. He said he had power against the holy people, stamped some of the stars to the ground. Right? Cast down some of the hosts. He said, you take down relentlessly everybody you see. Go ahead.
Then there was Then there was massacre of young and old, destruction of boys, women, and children.
And this was the angel is showing Gabriel. I mean, this was Gabriel is showing David. He's seeing this massacre, slaughter, right? Go ahead.
And slaughter of young girls and infants. Within the total of 3 days, 80,000 were destroyed, 40,000 in hand-to-hand fighting, and as many were sold into slavery as were killed.
So slavery, or some taken captive, some killed. What verse you at?
That was the end of 14.
Go to 16 and then hit 21. Go ahead.
He took the holy vessels with his polluted hands and swept away with profane hands the votive offerings.
That was 15?
This is 16.
Okay, you already read 15? We'll read 15 and 16. And then drop down to 21.
Not content with this, Antiochus dared to enter the most holy temple.
So he wasn't satisfied with just the massacre and the slaughter of the people. He went into the mighty and the holy place, the most holy place. With polluted hands, what happened?
And all the world, guided by Menelaus, who had become a traitor both to the laws and to his country.
Yeah.
He took the holy vessels with the polluted hands and swept away with profane hands the volatile offerings that other kings had made to enhance the glory and honor of the place.
So Menelaus ushered Antiochus into the temple. And he started to desecrate the temple. He said he did it with polluted hands. He started to get all the holy vessels. It started. Alright, what verse you at?
17.
Okay, drop down to 21. This is a lot. You just keep reading on your own, but 21 through 23. Go ahead.
So Antiochus carried off 1,800 talents from the temple.
Good. Go ahead.
And 100 away to Antioch, thinking in his arrogance that he could sail on the land and walk on the sea.
See, that's his mindset. He think he can walk on the sea and sail on the land. He lifted up, magnifying himself against the prince of the host, slaughtering the people, taking the vessels out of the temple. Go ahead.
Because his mind was elated, he left governors to oppress the people.
So he left some of his governors to do what?
Oppress the people.
Remember, he said arms was given him. He left people in charge to oppress the people that's in Jerusalem. Go ahead.
At Jerusalem.
That's right. What verse?
22.
Go ahead.
Philip, by birth a Phrygian, and in character more barbarous than the man who appointed him, and at Gerasium, Andronicus,
These he left in charge. Go ahead.
Andronicus, and besides these Menelaus.
Menelaus was the priest who bought out the priesthood from offering under his relative. Well, that of the tribe of Benjamin. So he wasn't even supposed to be high priest anyway. Right, but go ahead.
Who lorded it over his compatriots.
And he lorded over his countrymen, his kin. Go ahead.
Worse than the others did.
He was worse than the heathen, worse than the other people. Go ahead.
And his malice toward the Jewish citizens, Antiochus set Apollonius, the captain of the Messians, with an army of 22,000.
Look, because arms was given to him on his part, right? Go ahead.
And commanded him to kill all the grown men, and to sell the women and boys as slaves. When the men arrived in Jerusalem, he pretended to be peaceably disposed, and waited until the holy Sabbath day.
We finished at 23?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Back up to the first chapter of Maccabees. First Maccabees 1. He had armies on his side. That's how he was able to stamp the holy people to the ground. He magnified himself against the prince of the host. We're going to add a little bit more to that story. Now, First Maccabees 1 and 16. Then I'm going to read to y'all who Menelaus is. Go ahead.
When Antiochus saw that his kingdom was established, he determined to become king of the land of Egypt, in order that he might reign over both kingdoms. So he invaded Egypt with a strong force.
Right, he wanted to expand his territory, right? He invaded Egypt. Remember, he's the king of the north. His empire is Syria. in the surrounding areas. Now he wanted to expand his kingdom, so he coming to Egypt. That's the king of the south, the Ptolemies. It's constant war between them. But go ahead.
With chariots and elephants and cavalry, and with the Lord's fleet, he engaged King Ptolemy of Egypt in battle.
That's the king of the south that he speaks about in the 11th chapter. Engaged him in battle. Go ahead.
And Ptolemy turned and fled before him, and many were wounded and fell.
Go ahead.
They captured.
What verse you at? I just wanted 16. Drop down to 20. Go ahead.
After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned in the 143rd year.
That's the 143rd year of the Greek reign. Right. Go ahead.
He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force.
Yes.
He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar.
So he said his heart is lifted up. But look what he took. He took the golden altar,
the lampstand for the light,
and
all its utensils.
Go ahead.
He took also the table for the bread of the presence, the cups for the drink offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration on the front of the temple.
So what did he take?
He stripped it all.
Go ahead.
He took the silver and the gold, and the costly vessels. He took also the hidden treasuries that he found. Taking them all, he went into his own land. He shed much blood and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community.
That's right. Israel mourned deeply in every community. What verse?
26.
Go ahead to 28.
Rulers and elders groaned. Young women and young men became faint. The beauty of the women faded. Every bridegroom took up the lament. She who saw in the bridal chamber was mourning. Even the land trembled for its inhabitants, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame.
That's right. So now do it make sense why they would have to rededicate the temple? The man that came and desecrated, he done took all of the holy vessels and the altar and the lampstands. So what's left? Ain't nothing left. The temple is destroyed. Right? Hold that spot. Go back to Daniel 8 and pick up at verse 25. Daniel 8 and 25. Then we're going to come right back to the Maccabees, the first Maccabees. I'm going to pick up at verse 29. Verse 25. This is Daniel 8 and 25. Go ahead.
And through his policy, as he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
That's not witchcraft. That don't mean witchcraft. That means like crafty. Like he calls his deceit. That's what it is. To prosper. But he did it through peace. We're going to see. Go ahead.
And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
How is he going to destroy many? By peace. Go ahead.
He shall also stand against the prince of princes.
Yes.
But he shall be broken without hand.
That's right. So like we said earlier, if you stand up against Michael, the prince of the host, you do stand up against God of Israel, which is the prince of princes. He stand up, he had an army he went to war with. And he said, but he shall be broken without hand. That means once he died, it wasn't in warfare. Right? Go back to the first Maccabees, chapter 1, picking up to verse 29. He said, he shall destroy many by peace. Go ahead.
2 years later, the king sent to the cities of Judah a chief collector of tribute.
Now that's after he had already taken all of the golden vessels out of the temple, right? After he took all the silver. He come back 2 years later. All right, go ahead.
And he came to Jerusalem with a large force.
What is that? An army. Huh? A large force. That's an army. Go ahead.
Deceitfully, he spoke peaceable words to them.
That's what the 25th verse is telling you. By craft, by deceit. He gonna destroy many by peace. Go ahead.
And they believed it.
Israel believed. You so go. Right? You know what this man just did to you 2 years previous. And he come back and all of a sudden you think he done made a change? All right, go ahead. What verse?
30.
Go ahead, go to 32. Read 32.
But he suddenly fell upon the city,
Go ahead.
dealt in severe blow, and destroyed many people of Israel.
He destroyed them. So it was deceit. All the time he came with the words of peace, But in his mind, he already had it to destroy. His deceitful work. But he prospered. Destroy many, go ahead.
He plundered the city, burned it with fire, and tore down its houses and its surrounding walls. They took captive the women and children and seized the livestock.
Look, it's desecration every time. He killing the inhabitants. That's why when Daniel was seeing, he was like, how long is this going to go on? This 2 years later, he's steady killing. He's burning the city. He's steady carting people off in slavery. This is why he's so troubled about the vision. Go ahead.
33.
Yep.
Then they fortified the city of David with a great strong wall and strong towers, and it became their citadel.
That's right. It became their citadel. Right? Go ahead.
They stationed there a sinful people, men who were renegades. These strengthened their positions.
Go ahead.
35.
We're going to read for a minute, but it just shows us what's all happening. Go ahead.
They stored up arms and food, and collecting the spoils of Jerusalem, they stored them there and became a great menace. For the citadel became an ambush against the sanctuary, an evil adversary of Israel at all times. On every side of the sanctuary they shed innocent blood.
Look at that. They don't care. Go ahead.
They even defiled the sanctuary.
That's what it's told. By him. They defiled the sanctuary. Go ahead.
Because of them, the residents of Jerusalem fled.
Go ahead.
She became a dwelling of strangers.
That's what Jerusalem became. City of strangers. You can't even recognize. They done left off the laws of God. Now they turned over into Greek ways. Go ahead. She
became strange to her offspring, and her children forsook her. Her sanctuary became desolate, like a desert.
Look, that's what he told us was going to happen in Daniel. He said it became desolate, like a desert. Alright, go ahead.
Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into a reproach, her honor into contempt. Her dishonor now grew as great as her glory.
Go ahead, keep reading.
Her exaltation was turned into mourning. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
Now you finna get real pompous, right? He wrote to all people of the land. Everybody should be one people. Go ahead.
And that all should give up their particular customs.
I want everybody, wherever you are, give up your customs and your traditions and your laws and your statutes and your gods wherein you was born. Give up your heritage. This is how pompous he is. Go ahead.
All the Gentiles accepted the commandment of the king. Many even from Israel gladly adopted his religion.
That's why the Lord is angry with these people. They left the customs of Israel and they started to adopt the Greek ways. They gladly did it, right? Go ahead.
They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath.
What else?
And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the towns of Judea. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary.
Look, he stopped it. By him was the daily sacrifices taken away. He said he forbid what?
Forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths.
In the sanctuary, in the temple. By him was the daily sacrifices taken away. By him who? By Antiochus. If he's telling you to leave the customs of your God, why would I let you keep sacrificing to God? Stop it. You know how he can stop it? He got armies on his part. He done bought the high priest. Right? The high priest out of the tribe of Benjamin. He done bought him. And he wicked. Both of them was wicked. One of them was just a little more wicked than the other one. And they was glad to introduce these ways to the people because they trying to appease the king. All right, go ahead.
To profane Sabbaths and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priests.
Defile the sanctuary and who?
And the priests.
Go ahead.
To build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane.
This is what Daniel's explaining. What verse you at?
49.
Keep going until we get to 56. Go ahead.
So that they would forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Look, this is why God let it go on. He said because of the transgression, by reason of transgression, they cast the truth down to the ground. And they practiced and prospered. He allowed it to happen because of the weakness of the people. You gladly accepted those Greek traditions and customs. You gladly did away with the laws, statutes, and commandments. Go ahead and read it.
He added, and whoever does not obey the commandment of the king shall die.
Look, so that's the option. Keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of God and die, or obey the laws of the king. That's why he stamped a lot of them down to the ground. But it was some that did righteousness. Go ahead.
In such words he wrote to his whole kingdom.
He wrote to the whole kingdom, all his provinces. Go ahead.
He appointed inspectors over all the people and commanded the towns of Judah to offer sacrifice, town by town. Many of the people, everyone who forsook the law, joined them, and they did evil in the land. They drove Israel into hiding in every place of refuge they had.
Yes.
Now on the 15th day
The
of
ones who wanted to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, they got to go into hiding. Because if you get caught, it's death. Go ahead.
Now on the 15th day of Kesler, in the 145th year.
So this is like in BC years, this is the year 168. The 148th year of the Greek kingdom, but in the BC times, year 168. And watch what's going to happen. 2 years later, this is his second pilgrimage to Jerusalem. The first one he slaughtered the people, this and that, he robbed the temple, he came back 2 years later with peace. Right now we have the year 168. Right, when he first came, he said in order Menelaus, that's in 171 AD. A Benjamite, not even supposed to be priest, a wicked man who hated his own people, who gladly accepted the Greek customs, who built gymnasiums in Jerusalem. So 2 years later, after he finished robbing them, stealing and breaking down the temple, this is what he did. He commanded everybody to leave the laws of their God. And what else he did?
They erected a desolating sacrilege on the altar of burnt offering.
You know what they call that? Other versions of this book will tell you they call it the abomination of desolation. They erected the abomination of desolation on the altar. It was a statue of Zeus. And he commanded the people to pay homage to it. Go ahead.
On the altar of burnt offering, they also built altars in the surrounding towns of Judah and offered incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. The book of the law that they found, they tore to pieces and burned with fire.
Now from this point until the time the sanctuary was clean, it's 3.5 years later. So your 2300 day period, in the midst of it is where you get the 1260 they were talking about in the 11th chapter, and the 12th chapter. He set up the abomination of desolation. All of this happened. This is the reason why we have to clean the temple. Why it has to be consecrated. Right? But it's going to come by war and fighting and a revolt. Right? We call it the Maccabean revolt. They were sick of this. The Maccabees, they was fed up. Alright, what verse you at?
57.
Go ahead.
Anyone found possessing the book of the covenant, or anyone who adhered to the law, was condemned to death by decree of the king.
That's right. So the Maccabees, they got fed up with this. And they ran out to the wilderness, and it was a priest trial. They ran out to the wilderness, told anybody who want to come, let's go. We got to fight back. Right? But it started around the year 168, 167. After he set up that abomination of desolation in the temple, right? This is out of Josephus. We're going to start, we're just going to read a little bit. We're going to start at chapter 5. We're going to read a couple of chapters because we need it. Right? Start at chapter 5. I'll let you know when I'm past that. Okay. Read that portion too. Ready? This is chapter 5 in Joseph. We're going to back up what we've been reading. Go ahead.
How? Upon the quarrels of the Jews, one against another, about the high priesthood.
Right, they having issues in Jerusalem over the high priesthood. Go ahead.
Antiochus made an expedition against Jerusalem.
So he came down there and see what was up. Come on.
Took the city and pillaged the temple.
Yes.
And distressed the Jews.
Yeah, troubling. Distress means trouble, right? Go ahead.
As also how many of the Jews forsook the laws of their country, and how the Samaritans followed the customs of the Greeks.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And named their temple at Mount Gerizim, the temple of Jupiter.
That's what they did in Samaria. After they saw all of the trouble that had been brought on Jerusalem, they didn't want no part of it. You know, at first they was claiming to be Jews. But once they saw all of the trouble, they didn't want no part of it. So they temple that they had in Samaria, they renamed it the temple of Jupiter. All right, go ahead.
About this time, upon the death of Onias, the high priest, they gave the high priesthood to Jesus, his brother.
Right, oh, that's Yeshua. Right, but go ahead, say Jesus, we'll roll with it. Go ahead.
For that son which Onias left was yet but an infant. And in its proper place, we will inform the reader of all the circumstances that befell this child.
Go ahead.
But this Jesus, who was the brother of Onias, was deprived of the high priesthood by the king,
the king took it from him, the priesthood. Right, and what did he do?
Who was angry with him and gave it to his younger brother, whose name also was Onias. For Simon had these 3 sons, each of whom the priesthood came, as we have already informed the reader. This Jesus changed his name to Jason. But Onias was called Menelaus.
Right, so Jason had the priesthood been appointed by Antiochus. Right, go ahead.
Now, as the former high priest, Jesus raised the sedition against Menelaus, who was ordained after him. The multitude were divided between the both, and the sons of Tobias took the part of Menelaus. But the greater part of the people assisted Jason. And by that means, Menelaus and the sons of Tobias were distressed, and retired to Antiochus and informed him that there were derisions to leave the laws of their country and the Jewish way of living according to them.
Who did that? You said
Tobias.
Okay, go ahead.
That means, and by the means Menelaus and the sons of Tobias were distressed.
Right, so Menelaus was troubled. So what he did, he went to King Antiochus and said, man, we glad to leave these laws and statutes and follow your ways. Right? He had some stuff on his mind too. Go ahead.
To them and to follow the king's laws and the Grecian way of living.
That's what he brought to Jerusalem. He was happy to follow the king's law and brought Greek customs to Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Wherefore they desired his permission to build them a gymnasium at Jerusalem.
Look at that. They desired the permission of Antiochus to build a gymnasium in Jerusalem. So we finna Hellenize it. Right? And they built a gymnasium right alongside the temple. Go ahead.
And when he had given them leave, they also hid the circumcision of their genitals.
When he gave them permission to build a gymnasium, right, the people was partaking in it, he said they hid their circumcision. That's crazy. But they adopted the Greek custom, the Greek way of life. They become profane. And this is why God was letting Antiochus do all of this, bring all this turmoil to the land. All right, go ahead.
That even when they were naked, they might appear to be Greeks. Accordingly, they left off all the customs that belonged to their own country.
So he left off all of the customs of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? Come on.
And imitated the practices of the other nations.
Learn not the way of the heathen. Ain't that what the Bible teaches? Learn not the way of the heathen. They gladly adopted the heathen customs, the way of life. And that's why God was allowing this to happen. He was angry with them, right? Go ahead.
Now Antiochus, upon the agreeable situation of the affairs of his kingdom, resolved to make an expedition against Egypt, both because he had desired to gain it, and because he condemned the son of Ptolemy, as now weak, and not yet of abilities to manage affairs of such consequence.
So that's why he went back to Egypt. He saw that the Ptolemy sons became weak, and he wanted to gain Egypt as part of his territory. So he stayed there for a while, and then he came back 2 years later to Jerusalem. Right? What verse? Where you at?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
So he came.
Read, start right there. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
That the king came up to Jerusalem and pretending peace, he got possession of the city by treachery.
Look, that's what the 25th verse in the 8th chapter was telling you. Let me go back to the 8th chapter and read verse 25. It says, and through his policy he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He also shall stand against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken without hand. That's his end. That's how he came to his end. But he deceived the people by peace. Go ahead.
You see?
Yeah, let's keep reading through the highlighted portion. Go ahead.
At which time he spared not so much as those that admitted him into it, on account of the riches that lay in the temple, but led by his covetous inclination.
And that's what he really was after, the riches of the temple. Led by his covetous inclination, what he do?
For he saw there was in it a great deal of gold, and many ornaments that had been dedicated to it of very great value. And in order to plunder its wealth, he ventured to break the league he had made.
So he wanted to sack and get all the wealth, so he broke the little promise, the little peace treaty that he made with the people. Go ahead.
So he left the temple bare, and took away the golden candlesticks, and the golden altar of incense, and table of showbread, and the altar of burnt offering, and did not abstain from even the veils, which were made of fine linen and scarlet. He also emptied it of its secret treasures,
yes,
and left nothing at all remaining, and by this means cast the Jews into great lamentation.
yes.
For he forbade them to offer those daily sacrifices which they used to offer to God.
So look, didn't the scripture tell you that? By him was the daily sacrifices taken away. That's what he told. This is verse 12, Daniel 8 and 12. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression, because the people sinned. The Lord let it go on. Right? And it cast the truth to the ground and practiced impossible. Verse 11. He magnified himself against the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifices was taken away. This stuff ain't different. It's not hard to see. It's just if you want to see it or not. Right? But go ahead. It's saying the same thing. The history is proving it. The time period is the same. The kingdom is the same. The only thing that's not the same was the way you previously known it. That's the only thing that's not the same. Go ahead and read.
For he forbade them to offer those daily sacrifices which they used to offer to God.
He forbid them. He didn't allow them to offer those sacrifices. So he took them away. Go ahead.
According to the law.
Yes.
And when he had pillaged the whole city, some of the inhabitants he slew, and some he carried captive.
Look, ain't that what it said? He waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and he cast down some of the hosts, that's the people, and of the stars to the ground. It's down. This is what he's doing, y'all. On top of him killing and spoiling the land and the people, he also sacked the temple. He also took all of the riches out of the temple. He also profaned. He also set up the abomination of desolation in the temple. 168 AD. And the temple was left bare for a space of 3.5 years. During that 3.5 years, that's when the Maccabean revolt started. Judas Maccabees and all his family, they started fighting back. And that's why he was the one, they were the one that ended up cleaning the temple and rededicating the altar. It just so happened to be, because nothing God is asking them, they was priests. Rightful priests. See, the priests that we read about that's in effect now, they're not even supposed to be priests. We're supposed to come out of the tribe of Levi. These are Benjamites. But they got the priesthood, they bought the priesthood. They went to Antioch and they paid them for the priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
He carried captive, together with their wives and children.
Look, this is the host, the people. Kill some, take some captive. Right? Go ahead.
So that the multitude of those captives that were taken alive amounted to about 10,000.
Come on.
He also burned down the finest building. And when he had overthrown the city walls, he built the citadel in the lower part of the city.
That's what we were just reading about, right? Go ahead.
For the place was high and overlooked the temple, on which account he fortified it with high walls and towers, and put into it a garrison of Macedonians. However, in that citadel dwelt the impious and wicked part of the Jewish multitude.
The who?
Impious and wicked part of the Jewish multitude.
Those are the ones that was cool with it. Glad to adopt the Greek custom. That's why the Lord let this stuff happen. But keep going.
From which it proved that the citizens suffer many and sore calamities.
Yes.
And when the king had built an idol altar upon God's altar,
abomination of desolation. Once he built that idol altar upon God's altar, what happened?
He slew swine upon it.
Sacrifice swine upon the altar of God. That's an abomination for you. That's an abomination. Go ahead.
And so offered a sacrifice, neither according to the law, nor the Jewish religious worship in that country. He also compelled them to forsake the worship which they paid their own God, and to adore those whom he took to be gods.
Right.
And made them build temples and raise idol altars in every city and village, and offer swine upon them every day.
Every city and village he made them do this. And they did what?
Offer swine upon them every day.
So instead of them being able to perform the daily sacrifices of God, they had to perform the daily sacrifices of swine. He took the daily sacrifices away. But he made them sacrifice swine every day. Go ahead.
He also commanded them not to circumcise their sons.
That's why he said, that's why the scripture says he prospered. He let it happen. He practiced this and proposed this in his heart, and he brought it to pass. Go ahead.
And threatened to punish any that should be found to have transgressed his injunction. He also appointed overseers, who should compel them to do what he commanded. And indeed, many Jews there were who compiled the king's commands, either voluntarily or out of fear of the penalty that was denounced.
Which was death, right? The penalty was death. Go ahead.
But the best men and those of the noblest souls did not regard him.
That's right. Some people actually stood up. He said the ones of the noblest souls, they didn't regard him. Right? Go ahead.
But did pay a greater respect to the customs of their country than concerned as to the punishment which he threatened to the disobedient.
Yes.
On which account they every day underwent great miseries and bitter torment, for they were whipped with rods, and their bodies were torn to pieces.
And so, listen, you notice how I said every day? This happened for many days. And that's why when the saints was talking to each other, they were like, how long is this going to go on? This is what they're saying. This is what's being shown to them in the vision. Total annihilation of Jerusalem in the temple and the laws. And Greek customs set up. How long is this going to happen? Because it looks like it's going to be forever at this point. So they need to know. And that's when the angel told me. 2,300 days. After that, after the 2,300 days, this stuff is going to be brought to an end. And the temple is going to be clean. What verse? Where you at? Go ahead.
And were crucified while they were still alive and breathed. They also strangled those women and their sons whom they had circumcised.
Some of the troubles. Some of the stars then stomped to the ground. They starved because they were standing up for the covenant. What happened to them? They was alive while they was breathing.
While they were still alive and breathed, they also strangled those women and their sons whom they had circumcised.
This is everyday life in Jerusalem. During the reign of Antiochus. Everyday life. Go ahead.
as the king had appointed, hanging their sons about their necks as they were upon the crosses.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
And if there were any sacred book of the law found, it was destroyed. And those with whom they were found miserably perished also.
Look, what that mean? Don't that mean cast the truth down to the ground?
Mm-hmm.
If I find any book of the law, he gonna burn it. He gonna destroy it. If I find any of y'all practicing, he gonna kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go ahead.
When the Samaritans saw the Jews,
jump down to that 50.
That's where it is.
Okay, all right.
When the Samaritans saw the Jews under these sufferings, they no longer confessed that they were their kindred.
Look, they done changed their whole mindset. They said, we ain't their kindred. They said, we out of the Medes and Persians. They said, we Medes and Persians. Okay.
Nor that the temple of Mount Gerizim belonged to the Almighty God. This was according to their nature, as we have already shown. And they now said that they were a colony of Medes and Persians.
Let's skip down some more. We started at 2. Let's just read some of this highlighted stuff. Just read we going on. Go ahead. 2. Yeah, just read the highlighted portion. Go ahead.
Of them and sacrifice as Antiochus had commanded, at which Mattathias had great indignation, and ran upon him violently with his sons, who had swords with them, and slew both the man himself that sacrificed.
Okay, so now let's go up some. Let's start at 2. So all of this is happening. They sacrificing daily, right? We be out at the year 168 right now, 167 BC. They came into another town called Modin of Israel. What happened?
But when those that were appointed by the king were come to Modin, that they might compel the Jews to do what they were commanded,
which is to sacrifice the swine every day, right? So when they came, they compelled the Jews, let's see, pay your homage, do it, let's get it on, go ahead.
And to enjoin those that were there to offer sacrifices, as the king had commanded, they desired that Mattathias, a person of the greatest character among them, both on other accounts, and particularly on account of such a numerous and so deserving a family of children, would begin the sacrifice.
Right, so they came to Mattathias. They said, they want you. He had a little reputation in Israel. We want you to be the first one to start these sacrifices. Right, go ahead.
Because his fellow citizens will follow his example.
That's why they came to him. He got a little renown, a little fame. He said, if you do it, everybody else gonna do it too, right? Go ahead.
And because such a procedure would make him honored by the king, but Mattathias said that he would not do it.
Look, now if you do it, he gonna get honored by who?
The king.
Which is who?
Antiochus.
And what he say?
He would not do it.
Go ahead.
And that if all the other nations would obey the commandments of Antiochus, either out of fear or to please him, yet would not he nor his sons leave the religious worship of their country.
And this is what they explained to them. I don't care if everybody else around, all these other nations do it. Me and my sons, we not doing it. So basically you have to kill us. All right, go ahead.
But as soon as he had ended his speech, there came one of the Jews into the midst of them, and sacrificed as Antiochus had commanded.
As soon as he finished talking and telling the Greek officers or the Syrian officers, whichever one it was, as soon as he finished telling them that, one of the Jews came that was down for the cause. They was gonna sacrifice their swine. Now watch what happened.
At which Mattathias had great indignation, and ran upon him violently with his sons, who had swords with them, and slew both the man himself that sacrificed, and Apelles, the king's general.
Look, the man that came to him telling him to do the sacrifice, he slew him. He was raised inside. He had that zeal for the law of God. He killed a man that was about to perform the wicked sacrifice, and the officers that came trying to get him to sacrifice, right? What else?
Who compelled them to sacrifice. With a few of his soldiers, he also overthrew the idol altar, and cried out, "If," said he, "anyone be zealous for the laws of his country, and for the worship of God, let him follow me."
He said, come follow me. If anybody want to stand up, come follow me. Go ahead.
And when he had said this, he made haste into the desert with his sons, and left all his substance in the village. Many others did the same also,
That's right.
and fled with their children and wives into the desert, and dwelt in caves.
These was the ones that went down for the cause, right? Go ahead.
But when the king's general heard this, they took all the forces they then had in the citadel at Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
and pursued the Jews into the desert.
Right, because they're going to stand up against the Prince of Hosts. They got their arm, they're going to try to kill them. Go ahead.
And when they had overtaken them, they in the first place endeavored to persuade them to repent, and to choose what was most for their advantage, and not put them to the necessity of using them according to the law of war.
Mm-hmm.
But when they would not comply with their persuasion,
Right.
but continued to be of a different mind,
Right.
they fought against them on the Sabbath day, and they burned them as they were in the caves, without resistance, and without so much as stopping of the entrances of the caves.
So they got them a little band of guerrilla warriors, right? And this is when the revolt started, about the year 168, 167. And they went to war, and them brothers was fighting like you wouldn't believe. It's almost like a fairy tale reading about them. This is how you know the Lord was helping you. Where you at? Okay, keep going.
And they avoided to defend themselves on that day, because they were not willing to break it upon the honor they owed the Sabbath.
Look, this is how much they was keeping the law. Some of the people that was with them, they didn't even want to fight back on the Sabbath, because they didn't want to profane it. But Judas had to step in, and what he said, oh, Matthias, which one is it? Matthias? What did he say?
Even in such distress,
Even in such trouble and distress, they didn't want to fight back. They didn't want to profane the Sabbath. They didn't want to sacrifice swine. And here we are today, we do both of them readily. We eat pig without any regard to God's law. We eat pig like God gave it to us to eat. We break the Sabbath like that's what we're supposed to do. These people fighting to the death. Or they getting killed because they don't want to transgress. And you gotta stand in judgment. That's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
For our law required that we rest upon that day.
Look at that. Come on.
There were about 1,000 with their wives and children who were smothered and died in these caves. But many of those that escaped joined themselves to Mattathias and appointed him to be their ruler.
Look, so they finna get a little help now. 1,000 of them, they just said, we ain't gonna train, we gonna die, right? But go ahead.
Who taught them to fight even on the Sabbath day.
Right, so he taught them to fight. So he getting a little army together himself. Right, go ahead.
And told them that unless that they would do so, they would become to their own enemies.
Say if we don't, they gonna kill us out. We don't fight just because it's sad, they gonna kill us out. Go ahead.
By observing the law so rigorously, while their adversaries will still assault them on this day.
That's right, because they know they can get advantage on you on this day. Because you're not gonna fight back. But he like, look, we gotta have some common sense right here this one time. If we don't, they gonna still come and attack us on this day, and eventually they gonna kill us all. Go ahead. So he taught them to fight. He said, even on the Sabbath, go ahead.
And they will not then defend themselves, and that nothing could then hinder, but they must all perish without fighting.
Mm-hmm.
This speech persuaded them, and this rule continues among us to this day, that if there be a necessity, we might fight on Sabbath days.
Mm-hmm.
So Mattathias got a great army about him and overthrew their idol altars and slew those that broke the laws, even all that he could get under his power.
Right.
For many of them were dispersed among the nations round about them for fear of him.
Right. Go ahead.
He also commanded that those boys who were not yet circumcised should be circumcised now.
Right, so he cleaning up. He going behind and he cleaning up them Greek customs. Right? He said circumcising the ones who wasn't circumcised, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically putting things back in order. Go ahead.
And he drove those away that were appointed to hinder such their circumcision.
And he drove the ones away that was in opposition. What year? Okay. Let's skip now. So we know they got a little okay, let's read this a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just read that portion.
How Judas overthrew the forces of Apollonius and Saron and killed the generals of their armies themselves.
Because these guys was like masters at war. Even though they had a small amount, They was going to war and they was knocking some people off. Go ahead.
And how when, a little while afterwards, Lysias and Gorgias were beaten, he went up to Jerusalem and purified the temple.
Yes. That's what happened after. Okay, so now, let's read, let's go right here. We're gonna come back and read out here. First Maccabees 4, and second Maccabees 4. That's what we're talking about now, the Maccabees, right? Second Maccabees 4. Start at verse 7. Go ahead.
When Seleucus died and Antiochus, who was called Epiphanes, succeeded to the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, obtained the high priesthood by corruption, promising the king at an interview 360 talents of silver, and from another source of revenue 80 talents. In addition to this, he promised to pay 150 more if permission were given to establish by his authority a gymnasium.
Right, so we read that. He snuck the high priest's office. Right? Go ahead. What verse is it?
In the 9.
Okay.
And a body of youth for it, and to enroll the people of Jerusalem as citizens of Antioch. When the king ascended and Jason came to office, he at once shifted his compatriots over to the Greek way of life.
Right, so that's what they're fighting against. Right? The Greek way of life. They don't want no more parts of that. Let's go back to it. Let me find it. Where you leave off at 4? Okay. I want to find the prayer where you pray is that you really fight. What's this? Start right here. This is going to be one big war. Go ahead.
Upon this Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Domenes, and Nicanor, and Gorgias,
go ahead,
very potent men among the king's friends, and delivered to them 40,000 foot soldiers and 7,000 horsemen, and sent them against Judea, who came as far as the city in Emmaus, and pitched their camp in the plain country. There came also to them auxiliaries out of Syria, and the country rolled about, as also many of the renegade Jews. And besides these came some merchants to buy those that should be carried captive, having bonds with them to bind those that should be made prisoners, with that silver and gold which they were to pay for their price. And when Judah saw their count and how numerous their enemies were, he persuaded his own soldiers to be of good cheer.
That's right. They had a lot of soldiers, and they get ready to go to battle. They outnumbered, but he only got like 10,000 people. They got about 70. And he persuaded them to be of good cheer. Go ahead.
And exhorted them to place their hopes of victory in God, and to make supplication to him, according to the custom of their country, clothed in sackcloth, and to show what was their usual habit of supplication in the greatest dangers, and thereby to prevail with God to grant you the victory over your enemies. So he set them in their ancient order of battle, used by their forefathers, under their captains of thousands.
Now watch what he did. He set them in battle array like the old days. Right? Watch what happened. It goes like how?
Under the captains of thousands and other officers,
right,
and dismissed such as were newly married, as well as those that had newly gained possession.
Why would he do that?
According to the law.
According to the law. Right, the law says, if you get married, if you just get married, you shouldn't go out to battle until after a year. Right? Then what else you say?
They had newly gained possessions.
New land. The people hard ain't on the battle, they hard on their possession. Go ahead.
That they might not fight in a cowardly manner.
That's why he dismissed them. Go ahead.
Out of an inordinate love of life, in order to enjoy those blessings. When he had thus disposed his soldiers, he encouraged them to fight by the following speech, which he made to them. O my fellow soldiers, No other time remains more opportune than the present for courage and contempt of danger.
Right, he giving them a speech because they outnumbered. Go ahead.
For if you now fight manfully,
Yes.
you may recover your liberty.
Yes.
Which
if
as
you fight man, you might recover your freedom. Right, go ahead.
which, as it is a thing of itself agreeable to all men,
Mm-hmm.
so it proves to be to us much more desirable, by its affording us the liberty of worshiping God.
That's why they fighting. They want their freedom to worship their God. Go ahead.
Since therefore you are in such circumstances at present, you must either recover that liberty and so regain a happy and blessed way of living,
Mm-hmm.
which is that according to our laws and the customs of our country, or to submit to the most opprobrious suffering. Nor will any seed of your nation remain if you be beaten this battle.
Mm-hmm.
Fight therefore manfully, and
That's right.
suppose that ye must die, though you do not fight. But believe that, besides such glorious rewards of those of the liberty of your country, of your laws, of your religion.
That's what they fighting for. And he telling them, be a man. You know, propose that you're going to die for the cause. But stand up and fight to the death. Right, go ahead.
You shall then obtain everlasting glory. Prepare yourselves, therefore, and put yourselves into such an agreeable posture,
Mm-hmm.
that ye may be ready to fight with the enemy as soon as it is day tomorrow morning.
That's right. What else?
And this was the speech which Judas made to encourage them. But when the enemy sent Gorgias with 5,000 foot and 1,000 horse, that he might fall upon Judas by night, and had for the purpose certain of the renegade Jews as gods, the son of Mattathias proceeded and resolved to fall upon those enemies that were in the camp.
What else?
Now their forces were divided. When they had therefore supped in good time and had left many fires in their camp, he marched all night to those enemies that were at Emmaus.
Mm-hmm.
So that when Gorgias found no enemy in their camp, but suspected that they were retired and had hidden themselves among the mountains, he resolved to go and seek them wheresoever they were.
Mm-hmm.
When therefore the generals of Antiochus' armies had been beaten so often, Judas assembled the people together and told them that after these many victories which God had given them, they ought to go up to Jerusalem and purify the temple and offer the appointed sacrifices. But as soon as he with the whole multitude was come to Jerusalem and found the temple deserted and its gates burnt down and plants grown in the temple of their own accord.
This is what they found after all of the victories that they encountered. Taking down Antiochus and his army, right? Time and time again. One instance, they fought 70,000. They ran out 70,000 men with 10,000. You know why? Exactly. Michael stand up and fight for his people. Because the man had gave a prayer. I lost it in my verses, but he gave a prayer. And he said, "Oh God of Israel, remember how you used to do it back in the old days." And that's why he started to line them up according to the law. He said, "You be the Savior for us." Right? He said, "We fighting on your behalf, this and that." And after he finished, they started fighting manfully. They slew 5,000 of them with the quickness. That 70,000 man army saw how hard them brothers was fighting, and they retreated. After he prayed and after they went to war like that. So they took down battle after battle. They was coming up victorious. So after the fighting kind of skirmish, right, they went up to Jerusalem and they saw the temple, how it had been desecrated, how it had been, read that, what part you was doing, because it was explaining how it was looking. Go ahead.
After these many victories, which God had given them, they ought to go up to Jerusalem and purify the temple, and offer the appointed sacrifices. But as soon as he with the whole multitude was come to Jerusalem,
So they got to purify it and clean it. The sacrifices had been stopped for about the space of 3.5 years. So we done went from 168 when Antiochus first did it and stopped the sacrifices. Now we down to about 165. These 3.5 years later. And they went up after all of the victories, and they saw the temple had been desecrated, so they wanted to rededicate it. Go ahead.
And found the temple deserted, and its gates burned down, and plants growing in the temple of their own accord.
Plants growing up in the temple. Gates burned down. What else?
On account of its desertion,
Yeah.
he and those that were with him began to lament, and were quite confounded at the sight of the temple. So he chose out of some of his soldiers, and gave them order to fight against those guards that were in the citadel, until he should have purified the temple.
So it's still like we gotta purify and cleanse the temple. But he said certain men in order to fight against the soldiers until we get this thing cleansed. Alright, come on.
When therefore he had carefully purged it, and had brought in new vessels, the candlestick, the table of
Look,
showbread.
he had to do it. Remember, Antiochus took all of those things. And he couldn't do all of this in one day. Yeah, it took a little bit of time. You always got to leave a little room for time. He took the what? He brought in the new candlestick.
The new vessels, the candlestick,
Right.
the table of showbread, and the altar of incense, which were made of gold. He hung up the veils at the gates and added doors to them. He also took down the altar of burnt offering,
Right.
and built a new one of stones that he gathered together,
Right.
and not of such as were hewn with iron tools. So on the 25th day of the Mount Keslev,
The month, Chesaloo, 25th day. What happened?
which the Macedonians called Apelles,
That's the Greeks, that's what they call it. What happened?
they lighted the lamps that were on the candlestick, and
Mhm.
offered incense upon the altar of incense.
Temple had been clean. Temple had been clean. Now they lit the incense, the candlestick, what else?
And laid the loaves upon the table of showbread,
Mhm.
and offered burnt offerings upon the new altar of burnt offering.
Now we start to reinstitute the offerings, the sacrifices. We got them back going now. Because remember, Antiochus had taken them away. Now after we done beat him down in his forces, we reinstituting our service back to God. All of this stuff took 2,300 days to come to pass. Go ahead.
Now it so fell out that these things were done on the very same day on which the divine worship had fallen off.
Right, because remember, in 68 BC, the month Chesaloo, that's when Antiochus came in. And he desecrated the temple and set up the abomination of desolation. Now they got up at the same time, a few years later, 3 years later, 3.5 years later, and they did what?
The very same day on which the divine worship had fallen off.
And was reduced to profane and common use.
So at the same day after they had, the worship had fallen off, and it was reduced to common use, we're gonna find out what happened. Go ahead.
After 3 years' time, for so it was, that the temple was made desolate by Antiochus, and so continued for 3 years. This
desolate, right? Go ahead.
This desolation happened to the temple in the 145th year.
Of the Greeks. That's the 145th year of the Greek Empire. It's the 168th year BC. All right, go ahead.
On the 25th day of the month of Apelles,
Yep.
and on the 153rd Olympiad. But it was dedicated anew on the same day, the 25th of the month of Apelles in the 148th year. And on the 144th Olympiad, and this desolation came to pass according to the prophecy of Daniel, which was given 408 years before.
So they didn't understand what was all taking place until the finale of it. After everything had taken place, then they realized, oh, this is what the prophet Daniel was talking about. The rededication of the temple being cleansed. The temple was bare from 168 to 165. In 165 they rededicated it, and they gave it a feast for 8 days, and they called it the Feast of Lights, or the Feast of Dedication. Alright, so it was clean. In 165 165 BC. But it didn't start then. It started once the high priest swindled the high priest's office. Menelaus and Jason. Once Menelaus swindled the high priest's office, then the Benjamite, first thing he did was ran in the temple and stole some of the golden altars. He stole some of the golden vessels. Right? So for one second, and we're gonna see when he was a high priest. We're gonna back it up. Let me read this regarding Menelaus. That's the one who paid who underhanded the other kinsman for the high priest's office. He swindled. And then he started to introduce the Greek way of life. And then when Antiochus came in 168 into the temple, he ushered them in there. He led them into the temple. But go ahead.
Menelaus was high priest in Jerusalem
From when?
171 BC to about 161 BC.
So it started in 171. You do the math. Count backwards. From 165 to 171, that's what? Roughly 6 years and some change. 2,300 days. During that time period, it was an all-out assault on the people of God, on the worship of God. And then a little while later, about 3 years or so later, in 168, the abomination of desolation was set up, and the daily sacrifices was taken away. And 3 years later, after that, 3.5 years later, 3 years later, that's when they cleansed the temple. So over a period of 6 years, 3 months, 20 days, that's when all of this stuff was taking place. That's how long the assault was lasting. And it was put down by the Maccabees. Priests. Where you at? What did it say?
He was high priest at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt.
That's right. And he got the priest's office starting in 171 BC. Go ahead.
He was the successor of Jason, the brother of Onias III.
Right. Go ahead.
The sources are divided as to his origin. According to 2 Maccabees, he belonged to the tribe of Benjamin.
That's right.
And was the brother of Simeon, who had denounced Onias III to Seleucus IV, and revealed to the Syrians the existence of the treasure of the temple.
He showed them the treasure of the temple. See, he wasn't supposed to do that. You wasn't supposed to be the high priest, period. And first thing you did once you started to lack money was went in and robbed the temple. So you started the desecration of the temple. Right? Go ahead.
According to Flavius Josephus, Menelaus was the brother of Onias III and Jason, his two predecessors as high priests, and also born the name Onias. It is possible that Josephus confused Simeon, the brother of Menelaus, with Simeon, the father of Onias and Jason.
Go ahead. His name was Onias. He changed it to Menelaus. Go ahead.
Although during the 3 years of his
Menelaus is a Greek god. Matter of fact, that's why he changed his name. But go ahead.
Although during the 3 years of his pontificate, Jason had given many proofs of his attachment to the Hellenistic party by building a gymnasium in Jerusalem and by introducing many Greek customs. The Hellenists of the stamp of the Tobiads plotted his overthrow, suspecting him of partiality to traditional Judaism. At their head stood Menelaus, having been sent to Antiochus to pay the annual tribute.
Right, so he was sent to pay the tribute for Jason. Menelaus was. But once he got to Antiochus, he paid him 300 shekels more so he could become the high priest. So he could take the high priest's office away from Jason. And then once he got back, that's why they got into the civil war between them two. But go ahead, finish reading. Watch what he first did once he got in. Go ahead.
He took the opportunity to outbid Jason and secure for himself the office of high priest.
Yes.
An officer named Sostrates was sent by Antiochus with a troop of Cyprian soldiers to subdue any opposition that may be attempted by the followers of the disposed high priest Jason.
Right. So once he paid Antiochus for the high priest's office, Antiochus sent him back to Jerusalem with some troops in case somebody wanted to disagree. Go ahead.
Menelaus' first act was to seize the sacred vessels in the temple stories in order to meet the obligations he had incurred.
So what's his first act? Went into the temple and what?
To seize the sacred vessels.
Started to rob the temple. He the first one to start the plunder of the temple. He supposed to be the high priest. You ain't no high priest. The people call him a tyrant. They hated him. What else? Read him a little more. We'll stay.
This act came to the ears of the disposed high priest and Onias III, who publicly accused Menelaus of robbing the temple. The latter, afraid of the consequences of this accusation, induced the king's lieutenant,
Just skip over the name. Come on.
Antonasis, who had his share of the plunder.
That's good. So he was paid out too. But anyway, let's go back to Daniel. Let's see if we can read it again. We didn't finish all the whole chapter. Go ahead.
Right.
Verse 1. Now we're going to start at the Greek kingdom. We're going to start at the Greek kingdom. Verse 8. Go ahead.
Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
Right, because remember, Daniel didn't see any of this. So the angels had to show him. That's why he had the vision and had to have it interpreted. He didn't see any of it. He was only through the kingdom of the Medes and Persia. He didn't see the Greek kingdom come up, but he saw it in a vision, and the angel was explaining to him what his vision meant. Go ahead.
9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even
Go ahead.
even the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground.
So once again, what we're dealing with, the kingdom of Greece. Out of the Greece, out of Alexander the Great being the first notable horn, right? Then he died when he was great and in his strength. Then four notable ones came, but those are his four generals. They put on crowns after he died. Once they, at the latter end of their kingdom, one rose up, a little horn, coming forth out of them, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And that's why we started to get into Antiochus a lot. But go ahead.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
And because he had an assault on the children of Israel. Go ahead.
And he cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them.
Yes.
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
That's right. Go ahead.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
Right. By him who? Antiochus. The daily sacrifice was taken away. And who restored it? The Maccabees, Judas Maccabees. This ain't hard to see. It really ain't. I mean, you don't want to. I'm putting it out there for you. If you don't want it, that's on you. Go ahead with what we've been going with. That's cool too. But if that type of thing don't materialize, then you will know why. And if it does, we deal with it then. But I know for a fact it's too many holes. Too many rules that's been broken. Too many laws that's been broken for that to be the correct thing. But it's out here now. Go ahead.
The daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
And I'm wrong. All I ask is, show me where I'm wrong with. And I'll change it. No big deal. Because the key is to get it right, not teach doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to be looking for something that's not going to happen. I don't. Where you at? What verse?
Middle of 12.
Yes.
And it cast down the truth to the ground.
So did that happen or no?
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff that these verses are saying, it was happening. The truth was cast to the ground. It was picking up Greek ways. I didn't even read all of the stuff that was happening and going on during that time, but it got worse and worse. They was hanging the women for circumcising their sons, and they was dropping the babies off the balcony. Right, it was bad. It was killing. In 3 days, he killed 80,000 people. Took some into captivity. So it was bad on the people. Right? They was in distress, great trouble, right? And if it wasn't for the revolt, the Maccabean revolt, we know. That's why he was asked, how long was it going to happen? He couldn't see no end in sight. And if it's an accident, it's a perfect accident. Because the men who rose up and started to put the little army together just so happened to be priests. So after they put the army together, which was an accident, then you can come and clean the temple. Huh? How that work? Show me how that worked out by coincidence. I don't want to know. Go ahead.
And they practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which
The reason
spake.
why I'm harping on this, because if we don't get this chapter right, you're not going to get Daniel 11, right, or 12. We're not going to get none of the rest of Daniel right if we don't get this right. It's not going to happen. It's going to be messed up. Go ahead and read.
How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation?
Right.
To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot.
Remember, both the people and the sanctuary was trodden underfoot for 2,300 days. That's how long it lasts in total. Right? In total. Go ahead. 14. And he said unto me, until 2,300 days. Yes. Then shall the sanctuary be clean. That's a sign. He gave us a festival. They come up out of this. Feast of Dedication, Festival of Life, but you go into the New Testament and you see Christ was keeping it. Huh? Well, let you know it's done with. It's over. It already happened. Go ahead and read. And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision. What you did? And saw for the meaning then. Oh, you wanted to understand it. Go ahead. Behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And what happened? And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Uli, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. Now you can start breaking it down. Go ahead. So he came nearer when I stood. And when he came, I was afraid, and I fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. That's it, brother. Let's talk about the time of the end. This didn't say the latter days or the last days. Let the Bible explain to us what end he's talking about. You got to keep it in the proper context. The end of what? Go ahead. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. So the end of what? The indignation, not the end of days. What you mean indignation? Remember, God was mad at the people for all of the transgression. That's why he let the man come in and take him down like that. With the man was puffed up. He thought he did it on his own. But when we go down again, he's going to say, not by his power. Meaning the Lord allowed this because of the transgressions of Israel. That's what we read when we went to 1 Maccabees 1 and 29. It was telling us that Antiochus didn't even consider that the Lord was mad with Israel. That's why he was allowing this to happen. So it wasn't by his own power, it's because the Lord was allowing it. He said, because if God wasn't mad with Israel, he said they would have beat them and sent them packing just like they did Herodias, who tried to look at the treasures in the temple. All right, go ahead. The last end of the indignation,
For at the time appointed, the end shall be.
Yes, and they wasn't going to even understand the vision until the end. That's why when we got into Josephus, he was saying, oh, this is what Daniel the prophet was talking about, which was 406 years earlier. Right? Go ahead and read.
20. The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
Yes.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Right, we got all that. Go ahead.
Now that being broken, whereas four stood up forward, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation.
Yes.
But not in his power.
Right.
And in the latter time of their kingdom,
The latter time of who kingdom?
their
Right.
kingdom,
What's going to happen?
when the transgressors are come to the full,
Uh-huh.
a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark citizens shall stand up.
We know that was Antiochus. Because he said their king still in the Greek Empire. All right. Go ahead and read it.
24.
Yes.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
That's right.
And he shall destroy wonderfully,
Yes.
and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
That's what was happening. All that stuff we was reading, that's what we read about. Shall destroy and practice and prosper and destroy the mighty and the holy people. Go ahead.
And through his policies,
Through his craft or his deceit, through his intelligence. What happened?
also he shall cause the craft to prosper in his hand,
Right.
and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
We read that. And he reneged on his tree, his peace tree. That's why it was by deceit. Go ahead.
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes,
Yes.
but he shall be broken without hand.
That's right. And he died. Not in war. He fell off his horse. And fell sick.
Without hand.
No hands. Go ahead and read.
And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told to truth.
What's that? What's the evening and the morning? What is he talking about? The vision of the evening and the morning. What's that? Y'all gotta know it. Numbers 28. Numbers 28, verses 1 through 4. Numbers 28, 1 through 4. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering and my bread for my sacrifice made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me,
Yes.
shall you observe to offer unto me in their due
That's
season.
right. And they said, due season. What else?
And thou shalt say unto them, This is the offering made by fire which ye shall offer unto the Lord.
What is?
2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by day.
When?
Day by day.
That's every day. Right? 2 lambs without spot, day by day. Go ahead.
For a continual burnt offering.
And then what is it for? A burnt offering continuously, right? What else?
The 1 lamb shalt thou offer in the morning.
When?
In the morning.
And?
The other lamb shalt thou offer at evening.
That's what he's talking about. Now go back to Daniel 8. Pick me up at 26. Because you offer the sacrifice day by day, every morning and every evening, right? Go ahead.
And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true.
So what is he talking about? The sacrifice, right? He said, which was told, he said it's true. Go ahead.
Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
This ain't for you, Daniel. Shut up the vision. It shall be for many days. You're gonna be dead by the time this comes to pass. You're not gonna see this. And it's gonna last 2,300 days. But go ahead, 27.
And I, Daniel, fainted, and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business.
Why is he sick? You see what's gonna befall his people. Right? During the time of the Greek Empire, you see what's gonna happen. You see they're gonna be getting killed and slaughtered. And commit and go after Greek customs. And there's all type of carnage. That's what he was showing you. He said, seal it up. It's not for you, Daniel. Go ahead. So he fainted. He said he was sick certain days.
And I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
He was amazed at the vision. So So if this ain't what we've been reading about, then just show me what it is. That's all I ask. You could at least do that. If you saying I'm wrong, just show me where I'm wrong. But I need some proof. Cause all of this stuff can't line up like that. And it all be an accident, or I'll be forcing it. It's too much. Some of the stuff wouldn't have went. Alright? So Daniel is going to pick up this same story in the 11th chapter. We're going to get into a little bit more detail. Right here, he just gave us an overview of the whole thing, the whole 2,300 days. He gave us an overview. But in the 11th chapter, he's going to run it down from the end of the Persian Empire again. And then he's going to go in detail with the king of the north and the king of the south fighting. And then all of them different wars they had. 6 or 7 Syrian wars. He's running it down. And then when you get to around verse 29, 21, 30, somewhere, that's when he starts to pick this story right back up. But if we don't understand this, we're going to mess that one up too. Because we're stumbling on the word abomination of desolation. You got to realize it's more than one. Even the one in Matthew was talking about the one in Daniel the 9th chapter, not Daniel the 8th chapter. This ain't got nothing to do with that one. This was already done, complete, and over with before Jesus even made the prophecy of the Matthew 24. Right? So we got some work to do. But Lord willing, we'll get to it. So I hope we got some understanding. In Jesus' name, I thank you for your time. Amen.